Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is you're watching this. Go make sure it's not cut off over there. Anyways, how was your week? First of all, what are you drinking? I'm drinking Stephen Smith's black lavender with steamed milk, organic grass-fed steamed milk, yes, and organic stevia. And of course, I don't add the vanilla to it because it's like it has vanilla in the tea leaf, so and it's strong enough for me. So I guess it's my version of a London fog. So yes, and then of course in Life's Fiber Month, because right now I feel that's how I feel, surviving life. How was your week? I should say, how was your 2 weeks? Anything interesting? We were on vacation. We were traveling, and then we're back now. So it's, as my dad says, what turned into a vacation turned into an emergency crisis. But everything is fine now, or I guess settled for the most part. As much as it can be. So I guess that also kind of leads me into what we'll talk about today. And it's what nobody wants to talk about. I get it. Everybody has their limits because they don't want to think about life without a loved one or something bad happening to them. Also, even sometimes to ourselves. But let's think about it this way. In an emergency, you will be able to help out easier if it's someone else, or if it's you, then you will be able to have things taken care of the way you want them taken care of, and you don't have to worry about that. You can then focus on getting better or healing or getting back home or whatever the case may be, right? So let's start with in case of an emergency, right? Something happens and you have to go into the hospital. So for example, when my mom was first diagnosed, she was having pain in her left arm. And so she went to the doctor. Interesting enough, time she worked downtown, her doctor was in the same building that she worked, so all she had to do is just go downstairs. Her doctor is out that day, so she saw her partner. She took x-rays. What she saw, she thought was a pneumothorax, but it wasn't. It was actually a tumor, 2 different colors, right? One's white, one's black. So anyways, so she sent her to a heart and lung specialist. When she went there, what he wanted to do, because he wanted to run all these tests, because obviously it wasn't a pneumothorax, but he also didn't like what he saw. So he wanted to run all these tests. So he sent her straight to the hospital. He wanted her to check into the hospital so they could get her in quicker to have the test run versus making appointments. So that's what I mean. Like something like that could just pop up very quickly. And so with that in mind, the question is, so think about your daily life, things that you have to take care of. So are your bills auto-drafted? Do you like your bills to be auto-drafted? So depending, again, the timing of it, depending on what it is. Maybe you just paid your bills. Maybe they're coming due. But still, think about it. Are your bills auto-drafted? Now, I will say my advice for auto-drafting, the best way to do is, or the most secure way for them to be auto-drafted is for you to put your account number in there versus your card number or your debit card number, check card number. I will also say with that as well, banks have, a very bad habit of, if they think that there was something funny going on with your account, or they think that your card number has been stolen, they'll cancel it and send you another one without telling you that they've done this. So I say that in a sense of, if that happens and you have your card number, then you have to go through all of those bills again to be able to and change that card number. Or if your bill falls in the time to be paid, falls in that time to where the bank canceled it, and before you get your new one, you're screwed. So keep that in mind as well when you do auto or set up for auto pay for your bills. You want to use it if possible. Now, I know there's some places that won't take straight from your checking account or from your account number. They'll only do the debit card or check card or credit card number. Like, they'll only do that. And I mean, obviously there's nothing you can do about that. But if possible, whenever you can, do your account number. Again, it's more secure too, less hassle later. Also, another thing to think about, your checking account, who is signed on to your checking account, right? So do you have a spouse? If you have a joint account, or do you have two separate accounts? Is your spouse able to have access to your account? Your account. So, for example, like Sean and I, we still have two separate accounts. We just never, and interesting enough, we've talked about giving each other authority to sign on to it. But the thing is we each can still get in each other's account. Like, I can get into his own line, he can get into my own line. He has access to my check card, I have access to his check card. Like, we can get access to each other's account if we need to. But also keep in mind with that, if something happens and you need to draw money out, you can only draw out $500 a day per card. I don't think it's per card. I think it's in general. Anyway, I could be wrong. But you can only draw out $500 a day cash. But other than that, like, whether it's to transfer money or whatnot. So keep in mind, another thing, interesting, check card. So again, who has access to your check card? When my mother was alive, she was a banker. She took care of all of that. She had her check card. My dad didn't even want a check card. And then, of course, my mom always, everything down to the penny. My dad would be like, oh yeah, I spent, like, if his total was like $23 and some change, he'd be like, oh yeah, $24. And my mom's like, no, like, down to the penny. And then my dad had, so my dad didn't want a check card, didn't want to be responsible for one. When my mom passed, interesting enough, when she also had a bank credit card, and I didn't realize that credit card was attached to that checking account. I just didn't put two together. Obviously, I just lost my mom. The lady, when I called to close the credit card or let them know that my mother had passed, they were trying to cancel her check card. And I'm like, no, don't do that. We won't have access to her account. And she's like, oh, well, your dad, his check card will still work, because they weren't closing the account. They were just canceling her check card. And I was like, he doesn't have one. So we had to go to the bank to get him a temporary check card until his arrived in the mail. So it's also another option, or something to keep in mind. Also, if you put someone on your checking account, always double check with the officer in the bank, or the person that you speak to have this done. Or like Jack and Jill, there is a huge difference between those two words and what you are able to do. If it was Jack and Jill, both Jack and Jill has to sign off on anything spent. Like like if you write a check, I know, a lot of you younger people don't know what checks are. use this piece of paper with your account number on it. You give it to somebody. They're able to get money out of your account from that piece of paper with the amount of money you wrote on it. So anyways, but if it's like, if you have and, you have to have both people. Now, if you have or, Jack or Jill, either one, Jack or Jill, could take out what they want or do what they need to do with the account. Okay? You don't have to have the other person. So keep that in mind as well. Especially like if you're the only person on the account. I say this, like if you're the only person on the account, again, you know, Sean and I were the only people on our accounts, but we know how to access our accounts. We have we're with two different banks. So, but we know how to access each other's account if needed to be. So keep that in mind. If you are the only person on your account, is there someone that you would trust? Another option you can do is you can just add them onto your account. Granted, they have to be there and know it, but don't give them a check card. Don't give them, don't give them that access unless it's needed, in a sense. So, because they don't have to get a check card. They don't have to do like an online thing. So if they need a check card, or something happens and they need a check card, though, they can go to the bank and get a temporary one if they need to. So this is another option, something to think about. I know it's a lot, especially if you're very independent and you're concerned about who to trust to give access to your money. I get it. I understand. I'm just saying there's ways around, something to think about. Or go into your bank and sit down and talk to one of the people in the bank and say, hey, this is my concern. This is what I'm looking at. And they may have other options they can give you as well. Those are just the options I know of and think of and have experience with. All right. The other thing to keep in mind is, do you have any pets? To me, this is probably one of the most important because I am such an animal lover. So do you have pets? Do you have a plan for someone to take care of them, especially if you live on your own? Or if you're in a situation like your spouse doesn't take care of them the way you want them to, or a friend, and also something to keep in mind as well, depending on the situation and what's going on. God forbid, even, if you're in an emergency, sometimes even if your spouse would take really good care of your animals and you have no problem because you're a team, they're your kids and everything. Also, too, they're going through some things as well with the fact of your emergency, trying to figure things out or whatever, and it could totally slip their minds. Something like if they take medications or need to do so-and-so or whatever, because understandably that's not their main concern. You are their main concern, especially if you are the emergency at that time. So keep in mind, talk to your spouse, or your partner, whoever it is that you have, if you have pets together. Ask them, hey, in an emergency situation, do you want to let's have a backup person to take care of our animals so you don't have to worry about it? And have a person, even if it's a friend, a neighbor, or somebody, definitely somebody you can trust, and have them come over and be familiar with the animals and everything, and even the routine with it, and be familiar with that, and make sure you write down everything and have it put somewhere that they know where that is, so they can make sure that they're remembering everything and doing everything, and just kind of make it like something natural, oh yeah, I can come over and take care of them, as if you were on vacation or something, or if you want to send them to a boarding facility. I'm not a boarding facility person myself. That's not mine, but I don't judge people who do it either. If that works best for you, your animal's okay. Because a lot, there are there are those there are those dogs who love to go to doggy daycare, who love the boarding facility, who love that. Like, that's like a second home to them. They love that, and that's great. If they do, keep on doing that. But the other question is there a boarding facility that they like to go to, or doggy daycare? Do they do the overnight stay? Is there someone, even if there's someone there that, God forbid, in a case of emergency, something happens, like they would take care of your animals. Keep that in mind too, because they may be a great person to come over. Also look for, like when you're in coffee shops or whatever, or anywhere, like there's flyers and stuff, look for personal pet sitters. We typically, when we were in Madison, Wisconsin, we found one that she used to work in veterinary medicine, which a lot of times is always nice, because sometimes they can pick up on subtle signs of something wrong quicker than other people can. But definitely, or again, I also have a good friend of mine. That's her business. She's a pet sitter, groomer. But she's done like all the training, like she's done the CPR training and everything for that. So she's been through extensive training for that. So definitely keep in mind of what you would want and how you want your animals taken care of in that situation. And would your spouse or partner be able to do that? Understandably, if they could any other time and they wouldn't be able to because their main focus is you, that's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. But also sometimes think about that could be their break too as well, because as caretakers, they need a break too. And so that could be their break depending on what's going on, but also have that option, even if they think they can do it and then they find it's just too much and they need the help, they have that person they can call as well. So always keep that in mind. So also, in case of emergency, definitely, who do you want to be called and who do you not want called? Because, we're all in different situations that sometimes there are certain people you just don't want called. My father had a good friend that he helped caretake for, and don't call his family. He did not want his family called. He was not close to his family. The only time his family reached out to him was when they needed something. So make sure you have a list of like who you want called and also who you do not want called. Okay. Another thing, medical power of attorney. All right. So this, a lot of times the hospital will have you fill one of these out. And when you're in the hospital, so they have that on file. A medical power of attorney is just someone to make decisions for you if you're not able to make those decisions. So make sure it's known what you want, and whoever you make your medical power of attorney, they know what you want. And also too, the medical power of attorney is for, let's say your caretaker is not next of kin. If your caretaker's not your next of kin, like your sibling, your child, or your parent, they're not going to talk to them. They're not going to tell them anything. So if your caretaker is not your parent, child, or sibling, you need a medical power of attorney so they can talk to your caretaker and let your caretaker know what's going on with you and what you need. As long as you're okay with your caretaker knowing that. Okay. Another thing, even before Sean and I got married, he had a conference across the country. We were flying across country. My mom was a notary, and because we were flying across country, my mom typed out, notarized, and signed, and we both signed it, like quote unquote medical power of attorneys for both Sean and I. For God forbid, if something happened to one or the other, that if we couldn't get a hold of a parent, we could make that decision or if a decision had to be made in a split second and there was no time to get hold of a parent. And also so we can be aware of what's going on with each other if something happened. And we carried that with us. So if that happened. So also keep that in mind, especially if your partner is not, if you're not married, you will need this. I would also say, even if you're common law married, if you're married through common law, I would say definitely have this just in case, because some states may not recognize it, because you got to remember, not all states recognize common law marriage. So if you happen to be in a state that doesn't recognize common law marriage, they may not tell you anything, and you may not have any leeway whatsoever. And they may be calling somebody that person does not want them to call. So keep that in mind as well. I know this is a lot, but it has to be talked about. So I say this, like, if you have these things set up, it will be easy on everyone, including yourself, because those are like one less thing you have to worry about. And you can focus on getting better or getting out of the hospital or whatever situation you're in. Okay. All right. So I know this is going to be long today. So actually, you know what? We'll stop right there. I'll do the other part next week. So we'll do part 1 this week. We'll talk about estate planning next week. I know it's not something everybody wants to talk about, but also, to end on a brighter note, I forgot, it is Star Wars Day. So May the 4th be with you. And Star Wars month, this is the May. So yes. And of course, there's other things going on in May. Go Gray in May for brain cancer awareness as well. So we'll get into all that later this month. I did do a video last May on brain cancer awareness, so definitely go check that out. It's the Go Gray in May video. So yeah, check that out. It talks about brain cancer awareness and everything. Also, with what we were talking about today, I did put a link in the description for Triage Cancer. They are really good with a lot of legal stuff and resources that may help you and explain some of the stuff for you as well. And then next week, we will get into estate planning. So yes. Anyways, have a wonderful week. Do something for yourself. Take care of yourself. And we will see you next week under the willow tree.